Really fast. This is Loki from the future, and when I just finished hitting the record button, basically I checked Twitter, and Adam Schefter also announced that the Cardinals released their wide receiver Chosen Anderson, or he was also known as Robbie Anderson, but he changed his name to Chosen Anderson. Chosen was just traded from the Panthers to the Cardinals last year, so he just got traded because I know he didn't do too good in Arizona. I just want to talk about that before someone commented that I missed out on that. It literally just happened when I was like mid-recording, so I just wanted to bring that out there.
Three. He throws to the end zone. Davis 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good. Crosby in on goal. Backhander. He scores. And good. 49ers win it.
Hello, Loki Legion. How are we doing today? Yesterday was the NFL franchise tag deadline, which basically kind of means the last day for teams to franchise tag their players. This changed a lot of what free agents can look like because some players obviously got tagged, so that means they're not going to be able to be free agents. Some players got cut. Some other stuff kind of happened, extension as well. I'm not going to go over every kind of contract detail that happened because this video would be like 2 hours of me talking about Packers and Saints players getting restructured deals, what years added on, as their GMs normally add those kind of contract shenanigans on. But without further ado, let's get into the franchise tags. So I can make sure we're all on the same page here. The franchise tag basically means a team gets to keep a player for another year, and whatever the it's either going to be the average of the top 5 highest paid salaries of that player's position, or it's going to be 120% more what the player got last year. Whatever is going to be higher. So that's how they kind of calculate how much money they're going to get through the franchise tag. The first player that got franchise tagged was Daron Payne, who was a defensive tackle for the Washington Commanders. He got hit with a tag, so that's going to set back the Commanders $18.937 million. Then there was 3 running backs that got tagged: Tony Pollard from the Cowboys, Josh Jacobs from the Raiders, Saquon Barkley for the Giants, of course. They all got $10.091 million in their tag. So basically, you can kind of round it up. It's like $10.01 million. And then Evan Ingram got hit with the tight end tag, which would be $11.345 million. And Lamar Jackson didn't get the normal franchise tag. He got a non-exclusive tag. To kind of explain that means a team can, the Baltimore Ravens can match a contract another team is sending their way, or they can force the other team to pay up 2 picks in order to get Lamar. And because he's a quarterback, he has one of the highest tags, which would be $32.4 million in the franchise tag. Notable cuts were the Titans kind of had a cutting spree. Robert Woods, $12.1 million in savings. Taylor Lewan in $14.84 million in savings. Bud Dupree, $9.35 million in savings. Carson Wentz from the Commanders, he got $26.1 million saved for the Commanders by cutting him. Eric Kendricks, the linebacker from the Vikings, $9.5 million saved. Donovan Smith, left tackle from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, $9.95 million saved. Frank Clark, $21 million saved. He was a defensive line member from the Kansas City Chiefs. And Shaquille Griffin, this happened this morning, I believe, cornerback from the Jacksonville Jaguars, $13.1 million saved as well. 2 notable extensions that happened would be Geno Smith got a 3-year extension for up to $105 million. Daniel Jones, 4 years, up to $160 million contract extension. I'll talk more about those in a minute, but just keep in mind up to, I'll explain that in a minute. The last kind of player that was notable that kind of got cut, but then he got signed almost immediately after was Derek Carr. He got cut from the Raiders, but he signed a 4-year, up to $150 million contract with an out in 2026 for the Saints. The first year cap is only $7.2 million as well, and has a void year. And to kind of explain that, basically the Saints GM Mickey Loomis is known for kind of having a lot of complicated, weird contracts that on paper looks like a lot more than they actually are, but they have outs, they have void years, they have signing bonuses, a lot of kind of stuff so they can keep under the cap, especially with how much veteran players they have on that roster. Couple notes would be the Titans are obviously probably going to rebuild direction at this point. I'd imagine Ryan Tannehill might be on his way out soon, just because they're already shopping Derrick Henry. That's been confirmed. So I would imagine there's probably throw Malik Willis in there, see what he can do, and then if they suck, there's a lot of quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. So I would imagine they're going to try to pick up one of those as well. The QB contracts, I want to talk about those a little bit more because people are kind of freaking out a little bit about that. And for me, I think we didn't report, or the media didn't report exactly and how much of that would be incentive. He's kind of said 4-year, $160 million contract, or 3-year, $105 million contract, for especially for guys like Geno Smith or Daniel Jones, who are obviously not the top tier quarterbacks, but are obviously starters in the league. People are thinking $40 million for Daniel Jones, a little over $30 million for Geno Smith. That's a lot of money, and obviously that is still a lot of money. But you have to understand, a lot of these contracts are going to be incentive-based contracts. The teams have legit outs of them. A lot of them are going to be salary signing bonuses, salary roster spots, a lot of that kind of jazz. Not direct. I believe for Daniel Jones, he got like $100 or $105 million guaranteed money. So that means that the rest of that money is really not he has to really earn that contract. He's not going to get the whole $160 million contract right away. And one thing you have to understand with these contracts would just be the teams do not have too much of a choice other than to pay the quarterbacks, especially with how this league is so quarterback friendly and how much it matters to have a great quarterback under center. So it's not like they're just trying to ruin the market or anything kind of like that. I'll get more into the market in a bit, but these teams, they have to pay the guys like Geno Smith or Daniel Jones, or because they're not exactly picking super high spots. Who else are they going to get? Someone maybe from free agency, but yeah, they'd rather just rely on people who's already been in their system with their coaching staff. It just kind of makes more sense for them to just kind of pay a little bit more than what people might initially expect what they would get, than try to gamble on getting a new quarterback to get in their system. But of course, the main thing would just be what's happening with Lamar Jackson. As I mentioned before, he had a non-exclusive tag on him, which means that a team can pay up to 2 first-round picks, or the Ravens can match a salary on him. And there's been kind of a lot of conversation about that, so let me kind of explain what's going on. So from what I can kind of tell, it seems that Lamar Jackson wants a Deshaun Watson kind of contract with a lot of guaranteed money, or fully guaranteed at all, which obviously teams are not a big fan of the fact that most quarterbacks want, or are specifically getting guaranteed money, fully guaranteed money, just because before, at least if a quarterback got hurt or they underperformed after a while, they would have the option to just cut their losses, to kind of throw in bonuses, stuff like that. But because of the fact most quarterbacks are requesting fully guaranteed money now, what's going on is that these owners are not a big fan of that. Also then, because the owner's not a big fan of that, the NFLPA is kind of catching on. So this is getting a lot more controversial than I initially thought, just because it was very apparent after Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive tag put on him. Like, there was like a bunch of reports. I'll probably put all the teams on the screen right now, that of teams that just straight up said that they're out and they're not gonna even entertain the thought of getting Lamar Jackson. Which obviously people are gonna say he's injury prone, and obviously he's had issues with health, and he's a mobile quarterback, and mobile quarterbacks are not known to have the best year, especially later on in the career. But at the same time, it's also one of those deals where to not even like request a meeting with him, to not even talk about trying to get him to the Ravens, just to kind of completely bail, is another thing kind of entirely, especially when the Falcons were so rumored to kind of want him, and then their official Twitter account basically said that they're not interested in him at all. That's really kind of fishy of how fast teams were willing to just kind of get out of the Lamar Jackson situation, even if their quarterback situations are really iffy. So what that can possibly mean would just be, the first thing I'm kind of hearing would just be, at the same time, most people, a lot of former players are kind of saying collusion. I personally am starting to think that's more so that the Ravens want to see what teams are offering him, what his real market value is, especially because they still have the rights over him as their contract. But because of that, other teams are not gonna bite, or they're not gonna try to play ball, just because if they give him like I'm going to throw this number out there. I'm not saying he'd get this number, but like a 5-year, $245 million contract with like $230 million in guarantees, or something like that. I'm not saying that would be his exact figure, but probably something in that ballpark. What can happen would just be the Ravens kind of see that as their legitimate kind of offers and what his market value would be. And so they would probably just sign that because they have the opportunity to match with other teams offering him. So if a team offers him that kind of money and the Ravens see that and they're willing to pay that, other team basically negotiated for him, wasted their time, and then Lamar Jackson's not going to be on their team, and they'd rather just not deal with that at all. So that's another thing that's really possible. These teams don't want to negotiate for the Ravens, while at the same time, I'm also hearing simultaneously that a lot of teams do not want to negotiate with Lamar Jackson because they want. There's also kind of something I'm hearing about agents not being happy with that is because I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with this, but Lamar Jackson is represented by himself, and also his mother does a lot of the contract stuff as well. So it's not like he has like an official agent or something like that. So I'm pretty sure agents are not happy that he's basically kind of cutting them out of the negotiation, getting the fees, that kind of jazz as well. So we have a lot to kind of consider with Lamar Jackson, where he's going to go, if he does go anywhere, if the Ravens do want to just pay him up or not. Just because we really just we still do not know what exactly. We hear rumors that are not exactly official or whatever about what Lamar Jackson wants, what guarantees he wants, etc., etc. And because of the amount of money Russell Wilson made, Deshaun Watson, even guys like Kyler Murray, who are obviously, they all, especially Deshaun Watson, they all have their controversies off the field, and the Browns paid him all that money when he had a lot of the legal cases kind of going on against him, and he not played football in a year. Kyler Murray got like a big payday, and he, for as talented as he is, he obviously not had any major team success, no playoff wins, no division titles, anything like that. And the Broncos paid Russell Wilson all that money, and he never even played for them before. So, from what I can, as kind of going back to one of the first points I mentioned, a lot of teams do not want that to kind of be the normal of kind of unproven quarterbacks just getting a lot of guaranteed money in the $200 million range, especially with guys like Deshaun Watson. So they're trying to taper off the expectation. But obviously, when you have a guy like Lamar, who's the MVP in 2019, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. He's a dual threat quarterback. He went 14-2 at one point, which was the best record in the NFL. He led that team personally. Just a lot of accolades so far. He's made a couple Pro Bowls as well, especially for a young career. So when he sees that, when he's an MVP, he's gonna have off the field issues. He's gonna have a homer clause or anything like that. Obviously, he would probably believe that. I'm not saying this is exactly what he believes, but he'd probably want to believe that he was worth more than someone who's had legal issues, people who have had character issues, and not had as much success as he has, because he's won playoff games before. You can't really say the same thing about Kyler Murray, for example, or like Deshaun Watson, or Russell Wilson didn't win any in Denver. Obviously, it's only been 1 year, but you hopefully understand my point. So that's why it's kind of fishy that no team wants to even entertain the thought. But as I mentioned before, if no team wants to entertain the thought, it's probably more likely they just don't want to do the legwork for a new Lamar contract for the Ravens to just snatch up, because they still have the ultimate rights to him at the end of the day. But of course, that's not the only quarterback that's kind of getting a lot of attention right now. A lot of drama going his way. We also have what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, and oh my God, this saga just does not end, does it? So one thing with Aaron Rodgers would just be, recently he met up with a lot of the New York Jets personalities, their owner, I believe their GM was also in there, a lot of that kind of stuff with the idea of going to, obviously, New York to play. But I'm also hearing reports that Aaron Rodgers is contemplating seriously retiring, and this is all coming out from after his darkness retreat. So, and then on top of that, there's even more, just because there are rumors. I'm pretty sure there's nothing valid about this one, but one thing you'd have to consider would just be, if I'm hearing that if Aaron Rodgers doesn't leave or he stays another year, Jordan Love is going to want out, because he obviously wants to play. He got drafted in the first round. He wants to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's been sitting behind Aaron Rodgers this whole time. And for the last couple of years, it's been, will he retire? Will he be a Packer? Will he just go to another team, request a trade? You know how the whole Aaron Rodgers drama has been. So that's another thing that the Packers have to consider as well. Then I'm hearing the Packers don't want him back, or they're really leaning on the idea that they want to move on from him. So that's another thing that's kind of going on. So there's a lot of kind of layers with the Aaron Rodgers drama, just because from what I can tell, the only team that's really legitimately wanting Aaron Rodgers is the Jets. I'm hearing the Raiders might want him, but I hear the Raiders are linked to Jimmy G and a couple other quarterbacks who are going to be free agents as well. So one thing you want to consider with the Raiders. So right now it seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to if he is going play football next year, it's going to most likely be the Jets, if not maybe the Packers again. I don't really see another team. I don't really hear another team that's really trying to get in those contract negotiations. So it's going to be most likely he's going to head to New York, and a lot of the New York Jets players really obviously want him just because the ways the Jets are probably saying this would just be their roster came together a lot faster than they probably thought, especially last year. So they're probably thinking that if they bring in a veteran quarterback has been proven, who can still obviously play. Even last year, it was a little bit of a down year just because he had a lot of new weapons, a lot of players he was not familiar with, and that whole kind of thing was happening as well. So they're hoping Aaron Rodgers will have the talent in New York, especially offensively, and then the defense can really handle their own. They have a defensive-minded coach, and they obviously hired Nathaniel Hackett, which the Broncos tried to do for Rodgers a year ago. So they're obviously really all in on trying to get Rodgers, and then they're going to have Zach Wilson on the bench so he can learn behind Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson apparently really idolized Aaron Rodgers. He was like one of his main quarterback inspirations, so having to sit behind him would probably help him a lot, especially with his development. So the Jets probably see Rodgers as both a short-term, they can win now, hopefully get to the playoffs, win a couple of games, hopefully they can win a championship, and then later on they'll have Zach Wilson develop under Aaron Rodgers as well. So that's what they're kind of hoping with the Aaron Rodgers thing. But at the same time, we still do not know what Aaron Rodgers' decision is. We don't know if he's even going to play next year. So a lot of what the Jets are planning really, really, really just depends on where Rodgers wants to play, if he wants to play. And unfortunately, it's a broken record. We've had this conversation for like almost 2 years in a row now, 3 years in a row now. After the 2020 season, there was rumors on if he'd come back. Then 2021 was the last dance. Then 2022 he came back again, even if after Devontae Adams got traded. So I understand, especially if you're a Packers fan or if you just don't want to hear about Aaron Rodgers drama. I completely get it. It's because it's been almost the same thing for a couple of years now. But until he makes up his mind, we'll probably keep talking about it because Aaron Rodgers is still a very valuable player. He's still a top whatever quarterback in the league. He won 2 MVPs back to back a year ago, so he still has a lot of value in the league. We've seen how quarterbacks can play into their early 40s now, so he still probably has at least, maybe if he really wants to, maybe a couple of years before he really has a bit of a decline. So a team like the Jets, who just need a quarterback, they already have a couple talented receivers. They have Breece Hall, very talented running back, and then they have a really talented defense under Robert Saleh. They really want a guy like Aaron Rodgers to kind of bring it all together. But as I've mentioned before, it's up to Rodgers if he wants to go there and if he even wants to play in the future or whatnot. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today right now. I just want to talk about all the contracts that were signed, notable cuts as well, and also the franchise tags as well. If you guys want to see more content like this, and if you enjoy this content, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, leave what you want me to do next, and I'll talk to you guys later.